All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my follow-up recording to the Coffee with Counselors session that we had today, October 2020. It was reported that a few of us had some trouble logging in. Not sure if it was the password or whatever, but I did have a handful join me earlier today. Because it was just a handful of parents, I did make it a little bit more intimate, so I figured I would re-record and just present the information a little bit more broadly for you. So you could visit it and watch at your leisure. This first slide is just an introduction about what kind of presentation it's going to be. I will just personally let you know, as I present in a very conversational kind of style, very low key, and I truly grappled with how I wanted to build this presentation today because 4 grade levels has a lot of information and there was no way to know who I would be talking to. So I just kind of wanted to give a broad overview, but also be as specific as possible so that I could arm you with as much wealth of knowledge that I could. So if at any point it feels like this is too much or I'm just flooding you with information, I totally understand that. And just please know that what I wanted to do was try and put as much information in one spot as possible for you to revisit at your leisure. If it's one thing that I feel like the pandemic has really brought into perspective for me as a person is that I need things to be concisely put into one place where I can find the information when I need it. I'm getting constant emails, tons of emails flooded every day, and I have to, at one point, prioritize exactly which ones I visit right away, which usually goes to my students and parents, obviously. But I need to be able to, because I'm at max capacity in my brain, I'm like, oh, I know this is really important, but I have to put a pin in you right now because I have to do these things right now. And if I know that all of this information is in one spot in that pin, I feel like I'm armed with whatever I need and that's necessary at that time. So I kind of wanted to be able to put as much information as I could about the College and Career Center and post-secondary planning all in one spot. And then that way you could have access to all of this information. And please just also know that if at any point at any point in time, you have any other extenuating circumstances or specific questions that you know are just true for you and your student, please feel free to give me and my better half, my secretary/assistant. I really just call her my work wife, my better half, because she's fantastic. I could not function without her. Ms. Aguilar, both of us are armed with a wealth of knowledge to help put you on the right track and make sure you're doing everything correct and to the best situation that's applicable to you and your student. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and I hope you enjoy. And if you have any extenuating questions, please feel free to reach out. So I started the presentation with kind of getting an understanding of who I'm talking to. I'm going to try and all 4 years into senior year. There's a couple situations about a timeline, so I'll broadly go over that in here in a second. The biggest question that we get here, I think, is as a general sense, is how do I set my student up for success and making sure that they're making the best decisions for them? Just know your facts. It starts freshman year and sometimes even 8th grade year when you're taking those high school credit courses. Know who your counselor is for sure and know where this room is located. It's kind of hard to miss right as you walk into the front door. Your counselors can be your best friend, your best advocate here on campus. We are armed with lots of knowledge and creative ways to be able to solve your problems. There are policies and procedures in place that we can try and advocate for you in special ways. And we maybe at certain times our hands are tied, but we can try and find other ways that maybe we can help solve that problem for you and with you. So really, when I was an alpha counselor, I really wanted them to view me as kind of like their lifeline and their like back pocket, you know, ace in the hole kind of thing. I really wanted them to feel like they could consult with me on anything that they might need, and we kind of try and problem solve together. So these are going to be like your BFFs here on campus, and they know a lot of stuff, and they're very helpful. All right, the College and Career Center, I say that my hours are 7 to 3:30, and I'm just going to tell you right now that's a lie. I'm pretty accessible for the most part. If it's a question that I know I can just get the answer to you pretty quickly, I'm going to answer it right then and there. If it's something that maybe takes a little research or like a lengthy email response, then I might wait till the next day. Or if I'm really, really overwhelmed with a couple of projects or with a lot of emails, maybe 24 hours. But for the most part, we're pretty responsive. Both me and Miss Aguilar. Contact information is there for you. So if you ever need us, please reach out. We are here for you. The way that this room functions right now is kind of limited. We have 10 students that we can work with at a time right now, so obviously our priority is going to be seniors, but up until now we haven't really seen max capacity. So if you have a student who's face-to-face here on campus, they can stop in, they can get a pass from their teacher or stop in on their lunch or after school. Just make sure that you're communicating with your teacher if you're going to be missing work for your student. If you are a virtual learner, I do have office hours set up Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 9, and Tuesday, Thursday from 3 to 4, and I can also work around your schedule. If that doesn't work for you, I can schedule a Zoom to meet with you and your student virtually one-on-one as well. These are some of the things that we're starting to work on, or we have been working on. Today is October 1, so it's the big deadline / open season for FAFSA, so we're probably going to start shifting gears here, but we'll see college application season all the way through, big hit all the way till December, and then we'll start kind of weaning off and probably focusing more on scholarship and stuff like that. But college is not the only thing that we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We also talk military stuff, trade school stuff, setting you up for the best paying job that we can get you. If college or military is not really what we're thinking. So something for the younger student parents, if you are not aware, it's important for you to know that Texas does have graduation requirements. The 4x4 plan represents 4 cores all 4 years of high school, plus you have 2 years of a foreign language, a health class, PE, or athletics substitute, a fine art, and then we have to get to that magic state credit number of 26 credits in order to graduate. It's just important for you to know. So I always start when I'm talking to my students, what are we thinking? And I always blanket statement, it's okay if that answer right now is I don't know. Because it's probably going to change if we're being honest. You know, like 90-some% of us change our major 2 or 3 times when we get into college anyway, so we know that we're constantly changing, our minds are changing, our interests are changing. So if you take a career interest survey as a freshman and then you take it again as a sophomore, you're likely to get different results. So what are you thinking right now? And we talk about entry-level jobs, we talk about military, those technical or trade schools, community colleges, and four-year universities. And I'm about to talk about that here in a second, what the differences are. With the military, obviously I know there's more than 4 branches, but I really like those crests and I couldn't find the other ones. I have a military contact for every branch that you could think of, and they can answer all of the questions that you have as far as what your options are post-secondary and how they can help you plan to take the most advantage of what that branch can offer you. A lot of schools or a lot of students will want to join the military because they know that they paid for school. A lot of other students, they just know they're going to do the military because that's what their family does. It's kind of a tradition in their family. But either way, I have tons of contacts I can put you in contact with. So if you have specific questions or you already know that you're eyeballing a specific branch, please just let me know and I'll give you that contact information. If you're kind of on the fence about maybe considering the military, I would consider taking the OSVAB. We are going to be facilitating that here in the end of October, so more information on that is coming. It's a really good indicator of what area you're most proficient in and probably be really successful at. So even if you're not interested in the military and you kind of want to see where your scores would kind of lead you to, it'd be a great test for you to take as like a career exploration survey kind of thing. All right, so let's talk about 2-year colleges. There's a million different reasons that a student would want to go to a 2-year college, either for the certificate that they could get or as a transfer school. And there are 2 types of colleges. There's going to be the commuter college, which has like no living quarters. You just go to school, you drive there, take your class, and then you drive home or you go to work or whatever, like Lone Star. Or you have a residential style college, then they have on-site living like dormitories, and they do have athletic teams. So it's kind of like a mini university setting. That's what I did. I did go to a residential 2-year college. I stayed on campus and it was really probably the best decision that my mom made me make. So I graduated really young, and I probably was not ready for a four-year university. That two-year university was a really good stepping stone for me, saved me a lot of money, and it prepared me to hone in on those skills to make sure that I was successful when I was 100% independent going to four-year university. The steps to applying to a two-year school are actually very concise. It's usually happening in the spring of senior year. You can always do it now in the fall, but spring, they're pretty low-key about their applications. Take your placement test, which we do facilitate the TSI here on campus. The SAT and ACT, you have to register on College Board or the ACT website. Get your bacterial meningitis shots, sign up for orientation, and then register for your classes. It's like pretty set to go. These are some examples of jobs that pay good money for just having a certificate. Like, for example, that HVAC plumber electrical pipe fitting certificate takes 1 year to get. So you're just sitting in those trade school classes, maybe costing you around $1,500 for that certificate, and you can set yourself up for a $40,000 or plus salary that you'd be signing up for a professional job. And those jobs are jobs that we need, those hands-on jobs. Who am I going to call when my electricity goes out on my house? I will electrocute myself. I don't know the things that they need to know, all the safety protocols and how to wire things and all of those things. I need to call someone, and that's a very highly respected position. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. A lot of people use community schools as a transfer school like I did, and this is some data that I pulled from Lone Star's website from 2018. Where did their students who were using them as a transfer school, where did they go? So a lot of students went to Sam Houston, very popular school in the area. Texas A&M, University of Houston, even UT, Texas State, and Baylor. So a lot of students will use schools like Lone Star as a transition school, and that's very wise. For the four-year universities, if we know we want to go to a four-year university, but we're kind of still sticky on wanting to not be very far away from home, these are some four-year universities that have they offer bachelor's degree within like a 50-mile radius of where we are right now. So obviously UH downtown, Clear Lake and all them, HBU, Sam Houston, Prairie View, University of St. Thomas, Rice, all of these schools are like basically within a 50-mile radius of where we are right now. So that's a good place to start looking at creating your list and considering those schools that are closer to home. Just a general overview of a very simplified timeline. There's obviously way more to this, but just in general, a fall of senior year, craft that list and apply to those 3 to 6 schools. I do see more than that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're making yourself have to make a decision because you can only choose one out of the 20 schools you're applying to. So start honing in before you send in all those applications. Just narrow that list just a little bit more. Plus, you're spending money on those applications too. Work on your scholarships. And then in October 1 today, FAFSA opens. You want to start working on that. You are going to need your tax returns for that. So when you sit down for the FAFSA, make sure you have the information. Student needs their login and a parent needs a login, and we'll be following up with more FAFSA information later. And then in the spring, that's going to be where we start making that decision. That's going to be when those schools start expecting that decision and that commitment. All right, this has a lot of words on it. I'm not going to go over it with you. I wanted to put it on here in case anybody wanted to kind of screenshot it to kind of like keep that in your brain. A lot of these things you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it's actually quite helpful. And I actually got a lot of this from the other college and career counselors in Conroe ISD. They were very helpful with how I could best advise parents and how they could be helpful. General notion, and I'll actually move forward to the next slide, is take into consideration that the more stress you have, the more stress your student is going to feel. So like we talk on campus about the duck, where like on the surface of the water you look so graceful and the lake is placid and you don't really see anything, but underneath that water all those legs are just going crazy because you know that there's a lot to go into what's going to happen and setting yourself up for success after high school and setting your student up for high school. But the more stress that you have, the more they're going to pick up on that and they're going to feel it as well. When we talk about communicating with the students that it's going to take a lot of work and stress that it's going to They're going to have to work hard, but also allow themselves the opportunity to fail. Now that they're in high school, they need to be independent, but they also need to experience failure, so that way we can build up that resiliency and help them learn that failure is not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to learn and grow, and also probably promotes opportunities to learn how to advocate and how to communicate for yourself. So don't demand perfection. Let them know that it's okay to make mistakes and give them the opportunity to learn from those mistakes. Don't get involved, but make them do the communication, or get involved, get involved, but make them do the communication and the work. Be there, next to them, writing that email and offering insight onto how it should function, but they should be doing it, because eventually they're gonna have to do it without you. So be there to advise them how to word this email correctly, how to write a professional email, but make them do the work so they see it, they're exposed to it, and they're the one executing it. And then one of the biggest things I hear from the students is that they really love it when you listen to them as a human. It's so hard to kind of tear this image of my baby out of my brain when I think about children, but now that they're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, they are an adult, they're learning to be an adult, and we need to start talking to them about how to behave like an adult and modeling that for them and treating them like that. Obviously, you still need to keep the structure. You're the parent. There's consequences to your actions, and you have to be the parent, but still acknowledging that they are a human and that they're maturing, and giving them that opportunity to express their desires and that you're truly listening to them. All right, so timeline, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you'll see that it gets very, very inclusive as they get older. This is not at all an exhaustive list, but it does kind of give you a general sense of things that you could be focusing on freshman year to make sure that you're setting up for success, like learning to advocate for yourself as a student. Thinking broadly about what you might want to do after high school, exploring your passions, and developing time management and study skills. Freshman and sophomore year, that's the time you really need to hone in on those skills. Sophomore year is the first opportunity that we provide the PSAT. Perfect those time management skills, challenge yourself a little bit more, maybe start considering taking those more advanced classes, which we'll talk about here in a second. Seek out opportunities for leadership and get involved. Start building that resume in those activities that you're doing. This is a perfect example of challenging yourself or over challenging yourself. So I get a lot of questions like, how do I make sure that my student is challenging themselves and taking the most difficult classes to help their GPA and help their rank? And when I was advising my students, working with them on choosing what level courses is appropriate for them, I would always ask them, how much time do you have in a day? Are you a football player? Are you on the drill team? Are you in band? Those are high time commitment opportunities and organizations that require a lot of time. So that's time that you can't spend on AP Human Geography. And AP Human Geography, and AP World History, they have a lot of independent study, like you have to read and you have to take these notes, and it's not necessarily about how smart you are or how much you comprehend without really trying. Oftentimes it all comes down to work ethic and time management. So you have to be able to make sure that you can allot for that in your choices. So when you ask the question, does my student need to be in all upper level courses to be at the top of the class? You need to really think about what you would be setting your student up for if we did all challenging courses. So like student one, they bit off more than they can chew. You see that they signed up for all pre-AP classes for the most part, but they didn't really do as well. They got D's or C's in those classes, and they missed out on those extra GPA points that were afforded to them. Whereas student number two, they started out, you know what, I need to kind of see where I'm at. They chose level courses for the most part, but they did really well. So they got 4 points towards their GPA for all those A's that they got. And then by the time they got to sophomore, junior year, you see how they kind of progressed a little by little by little, and you see that actually student two in the end had a better GPA and felt better about where they stood in comparison to a lot of the other students in their class. So this is just a couple examples of how specific these choices need to be to you and what your daily schedule looks like. What are you capable of committing to outside of these walls, and how that affects your academic performance. Because like I said, it's not necessarily about how smart you are. It could be time management and work ethic. Those are the two biggest predictors when you're going to be successful in an advanced level class. All right, moving forward. Obviously, not an exhaustive list, but still much longer than sophomore and freshman year. Junior year, we're going to take the SAT, the ASVAB. We're going to start narrowing down our college list. We're going to research all those colleges, probably narrow down the majors we're considering, and start forming those lists. Going to go to college night. Please go to college night. Explore other options. Research activities that you can do over the summer, and at the end of junior year is when you mostly see those scholarships like zoning in on you and pinging, and you see those opportunities start to open at the end of spring and through the summer entering your senior year. It's also really a great opportunity for you to start working on the essay prompts for college applications and start working on your brag sheets for the letters of recommendations that you're going to be requesting from your teachers and counselors next year as a senior. So we ask for those brag sheets because we want to write the best letter of recommendation for you possible, and we may not know all of the things that really helps us to promote you as a student. So those questions really help to hone in on those things that really help us write the best personalized letter for you, and those letters of recommendations can become the make or break when it comes to a holistic review of your college application. So, by the way, senior year, all the things happen, basically. So college application season, we're thickening it right now. FAFSA, testing if you can. Right now, testing is optional because of COVID. Thank you, COVID, and the pandemic. We'll talk more about that later. Athletes are going to need to get involved with the NCAA or the NAIA with your coaches. I also can help with that. We're maintaining our grades. We're monitoring our acceptances and our applications, and we're visiting our schools. We're going to college night, all of the things. It can start to feel like a second job. It probably will, but don't feel overwhelmed. Take it one day at a time and know that you have a support system here at Grand Oaks to help you take it one day at a time. Okay, I'm going to breeze through the next few slides because it's literally just a step-by-step. What does it look like? The procedure. Applying to a four-year university, develop your list. Apply first. That literally starts the file at the university for you. Your application starts the file. If you request the official transcript and I send it before your application is there, there's a possibility that they'd be like, I don't have a file for this kid. Well, we'll get to it later, and then it gets lost, and then we have to find some roundabout thing. Maybe I'm resending it and all the things. So send in the application first, then request your test scores if you're sending them this year from College Board or ACT. Then you request the official transcript from me, and then you request the letters of recommendation if necessary, which some schools don't have. They don't ask for a letter of recommendation, but if you are, that's the order that you would do things. So choosing your colleges, narrow down. There's a lot of schools out there. Find the right fit for you. Think, do you want a big school or do you want a smaller school setting? Do you know the student-to-teacher ratio? Do you know what kind of school you want? Do you want a liberal arts school? Are you looking for an engineering school? And also, really important thinking is, can I afford it? You don't want to shoot for the stars when you know that you're not going to be able to financially make it work. I like to tell students how to categorize their schools. You should have at least one or two schools in each of these categories. A reach school, a target school, and then a likely school. Not to be confused with a fallback school. Don't put a school in your likely category if you know that you would hate going there. If you know Lone Star is not the good fit for you, don't put Lone Star as a likely school for you. You don't even want to put yourself in that situation. And then here's an example of two students who may have developed their school. So like student A has a 1090 on their SAT. They have some activities, but they're sitting around middle ground with a 3.1 GPA. These are some of the schools that they may consider. A reach school would be University of Texas. We don't know if they're going to get in. A target school, like a good fit for them, probably likely they would get in is University of Houston or maybe UNT. And then a likely school is more likely, even more likely to get in that you wouldn't mind going to, maybe Texas State or Sam Houston. Student B, they've got a better score on their SAT and they're in the top quarter of their school and their GPA is a little bit better. Maybe they can start shooting for Vanderbilt or Rice. And then a target school, maybe Baylor. And then maybe a likely school would be more like Texas Tech or Texas A&M. So this is a couple examples of what a school list would look like. This is a moneymaker question, and it's difficult to really, anybody in this situation, to have this conversation with your student, but really you have to be upfront with them about what financially they will be able to afford. And I say they, but it's also you, like bullet number one, and why not? It's your money. You can't take a loan out for retirement. Once you're out of money, you're out of money. But you want to be able to teach them and arm them with the knowledge of how can I make myself able to afford this school. So like bullet point number one on why you could still apply to the school that you thinking, you know what, maybe that's a little too expensive. We don't know what kind of merit scholarships that school might be able to offer you to kind of cut some of those costs. You don't know what kind of scholarships we may be able to get from the gazillion of scholarships applications that we're going to send in within the next 4 or 5 months. And we don't know what the government's going to give us after we file our FAFSA. There is a FAFSA forecaster that you can kind of gauge what about you might be approved for, but it's going to be very telling that you might be able to afford some of these outrageous schools after you see all of those pieces fall into place. The last bullet that I put in there is just falling in love with and being admitted to a college that ultimately you end up not being able to go to just because of financial purposes. It can be pretty crushing. And we don't want to put a student in that situation. It does happen sometimes, but that's another life lesson that they may need to learn. You know, you're not going to be able to get everything you want, and money, it doesn't necessarily make the world go around, but it is a very big factor in a lot of the decisions that we make. So. All right, 3 types of admissions that you might be aware of already, but I need to go over them just in case. There's an automatic admission in the state of Texas. If you were in the top 10% of your graduating class, so for our current seniors, ranks 1 through 59, you are in the top 10%, you're automatically admitted to a public university of your choice within the state of Texas. The only exception to that is going to be UT. They have so many applications coming their way that they actually have to narrow it down even further to make sure that they actually get all of the automatic admits, and they're in the top 10%. So if you're in the top 6%, so if you're in the top 6% of your graduating class, then you'll be automatically admitted to UT. The next option is an assured admit, and that's where they take like a combination of items like your GPA or your rank or your SAT score, and if you meet these requirements, then you're assured admission to their school. And then if you don't make those two, then the next review that they would go to for admitting a student would be the holistic application. So admission, where you're going to be looking at the application, the essay, the letters of recommendation, the transcript, what organizations and activities did you do, all of those things. So they're going to look at you, a panel's going to come together for the university, and they're going to go over those bundles together, and they're going to choose the last spots that they have available, what students are going to get those spots. All right, and so here's an example of like a chart that we have in Canvas. So you can see like Texas Tech University is listed there. What is their assured admit rate? You have to get, I can't read it quite, 1180 on the SAT or 24 on the ACT. So this is in Canvas, so your senior can see it in Canvas, and it is updated pretty frequently, so I try and keep it updated, but you can always go to the school's website and see their assured admit information as well. This is a really cool video that I found. It gives the inside view of example of what a panel discusses when they're going through the holistic review process. So if your student is one that's likely to go to holistic review, what kind of things are they looking for that set them apart from the other students that are also going through holistic review? So I'm not going to play it for you now, but this PowerPoint is going to be on the website, and so you can pull it up and watch it from there. It's actually very insightful. There are some things in there that's like, oh, I didn't realize that they actually look at this, and this, and it's very insightful. Holistic review, I kind of already talked about that. These are the factors that go into it. The next thing that I want to talk about is test optional. So because of COVID and the pandemic and everything having to shut down, and I'm sure you're already very aware that a lot of people are complaining that all of the testing sites are shutting down or postponing or rescheduling and all these things. So schools, 99.9% of them are making their applications test score optional, because they're acknowledging that it's very difficult to get into tests at this point. And even if we were able to get into tests, there are like extenuating circumstances that could make it so that you're not really performing to the best of your ability. And so that's why they're making test scores optional for the application. However, if you have good scores, if you're able to take the test, I highly suggest submitting those scores or opting in to submit those scores, because they could be the determining factor of if we qualify for a merit-based scholarship within that school, or they may qualify us for other scholarship opportunities. Not sending test scores is not detrimental. It doesn't hurt us in any way whatsoever. But if you do have the good test scores, it could benefit you if you choose to send them. They were starting to say that I need you to say when you're applying, yes, I'm going to send the score, or no, I'm going to send the score, I'm not going to send the score, and then stick to it. But now that some schools are saying, oh, you know what, if you change your mind, you want to send the score, you were able to test in November and you got your scores back in December, and you want to send them, you can go ahead and do that. So I would just check with the school individually, check their website or call their admissions office and ask them what they're saying about the flip-flopping on the sending of the test scores, and see what they suggest. But I'm just really thankful that the post-secondary schools are being so flexible with that. I did have a parent ask me if I anticipated that staying if test scores were going to continue to be optional for 2022. And I will just say that in my umpteen rep visits that I facilitated, the majority of them are itching to get back to being able to have access to those test scores, because there are so many students that meet the assured admit category with their test scores that they kind of alleviates a lot of the holistic review applications. So they're being inundated with sheer volume of holistic review applications that they're having to do this year, because they don't have that test score. So I would anticipate once things start lifting up in this pandemic state, this quarantine state where it's difficult to test, I would anticipate they're probably going to continue to make it, or they're going to go back to making it necessary again. So if you can test, I would test. If you're not familiar with the test, the two most common tests that you would need to send your scores to school are the SAT or the ACT. The SAT is really popular here in Texas. The ACT is more popular in like East Coast or in the Midwest where I went to school. I took the ACT. Didn't really do so hot on it. It was very difficult. You'll see just a couple things, like there's fewer geometry on the SAT. There's no science section on the SAT. There is a pretty tough science section on the ACT. Relatively the same amount of hours, different scoring system, and just a couple points here and there about determining what kind of test could really hone in. So if you're really good at a certain spot, you might want to hone in here, or if you think that maybe taking the ACT so you can start really beefing up your math and science and showcasing that, probably be a good idea for you to take it. We talk a little bit about demonstrated interest when I'm talking to the college admissions counselors. They want to see students going on official campus visits. Those names, they keep track of those names. They want to hear from the students who are interested. So like reaching out to the admission advisor for Texas Tech would be good, because that Texas Tech advisor is that rep that I have assigned to us, her eyes are probably going to be the first one on your student's application, and they want to see that name more often. And so if they're seeing that it's demonstrated interest, it kind of peaks and kind of puts your best foot forward and kind of separates you from the pack, so to say. Now, that demonstrated interest does not look like constantly calling the admissions office, whether that be you or the student. You don't want to constantly be calling and nagging them. That's going to be bad coverage, really, right there. And sending information that they don't need, all that excess, if they don't need it, don't send it, because it's just going to create more work for them. That's what I got from the reps anyway. When you do take a college visit, you do need to bring something back from that college visit so the attendance office can mark that absent as not counting against you. So sometimes, like a college, if you go to their admissions office, or if you go to their like front office and you say, hey, I'm here for my visit, they usually give you like a slip of paper that says, with their letterhead on it, and say, here, bring this back to your school so we can take care of your absence or whatever. This year, we're doing tons of virtual visits with all of the college reps that I was telling you about earlier. This is in Naviance. I screenshotted this from Naviance, so your student can log in and register, and they get their Zoom link, and then they'll get even a notification and a reminder email from Naviance that it's coming up that day. It's really good one-on-one time, or one-on-5 time, or one-on-20 time is the biggest I've seen, where the rep can really hone in and answer all their questions and talk about their school and promote their school and talk about dorm life and talk about student center and talk about classes and majors and student to teacher ratio and all those things in a more personal setting instead of having to visit all their websites, which is really impersonal. If you're still in the exploration phase of trying to narrow down that list, Naviance also has a college finder. So like you can set your filters to, I can only afford this amount of money, the graduation rate is this, it has these like majors or programs of study and their deadlines and timelines and things like that. So tons of filters. I couldn't even tell you all the filters that they can put in, but you put in those filters and it actually procures a list for you. So that's actually very helpful if you're still working on exploring your college options. The application process, what it looks like, college applications everywhere. That is where we live right now. And there are 3 types of applications. You'll see Apply Texas for any Texas school for the most part, especially if it's a public school. And then if for any private or out-of-state school, you're going to see Common App. This is a great spot for you to start with these 2 spots, because what you do is instead of going to like Texas State or Sam Houston and filling out that application, and then you're filling out this application, and then you're filling out the Trinity application, you fill it out one time, and then that entity sends it out to the various universities that need it. So yes, you can go to the university specific application if that's all that they have, but most of them are using one of these 2 types of application houses. Here's how you request your test scores, either College Board for the SAT or your AP scores, or ACT for the obvious ACT that you need to send those scores. That's just more information on the difference between ACT and SAT. Test preparation, I get this a lot. We have tons of resources in the library. Khan Academy, I know it has like the you use it too much and it needs to glorify blah, but I will tell you right now, if you take the practice test, the practice SAT in Khan Academy, they'll calculate all of your scores and they'll be able to hone in on where your weaknesses are and then send you to the modules that'll help you hone in on your weaknesses and beef that up. So that way when you do practice for this test, you're really not wasting your time studying all the things, you're honing in on where your weaknesses are, and it's very, very helpful. If you are on the free reduced lunch program, I can get you application waivers and SAT waivers and ACT waivers. So if that is something that applies to you, come see me, I can get you something like that. I've kind of already gone over this information. And this is an example of what the Apply Texas application site looks like. Sometimes it's just nice to have it in your brain. More information about the Common App application and the college-specific application. I kind of went over the letters of recommendation procedure. What you need to know about letters of rec. 1, talk to the teacher before you put the request in Naviance. You have to do both. And you have to send them the request form and the brag sheet. I talked about the brag sheet earlier. You want to arm me with all of the information to write you the best letter of recommendation I can. So you have to give those 2 items to the teacher and make the request in Naviance. Make sure that you get those requests in with enough time to get your application complete by the deadline. So if your application deadline is November 15, you need to get that letter of recommendation request in before the end of October, because they need time to write it and upload it to send it for you. Same with your transcript requests. You need to make sure you get those transcripts to me through Naviance so I can process them before the deadline for your application. So just so you know. Also, I've been asked about this a lot regarding the charge for transcripts. You get 3 transcripts free, so wherever I need to send those things is free, and then after that it's $3 per transcript after that. So, and those are tallied at the end of each semester, and then they're tacked on to your School Cash Online account. And if you're not squared away by the end of senior year, that means we're missing out on other senior activity opportunities, because you have to have that account, that senior account, squared away. So make sure you're staying on top of that. This is the procedure to requesting a transcript, and it's just going into Naviance, setting your school up, how you're applying to the school, adding that transcript request, And then it's an initial transcript at this point. It's beginning of the school year, request and finish. And then you'll be able to see your transcript requests on your college lists there. If you are using Common App, you need to match your Common App. It's a really big red bar, you can't miss it, to your Naviance and waive your FERPA. If you don't waive your FERPA, that's you saying that I can't share your information, and that's kind of what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to share your transcript. You're asking me to share your letters of rec, so you have to waive your FERPA for me to be able to do that. Same, the counselor letter of recommendation is very similar. It has to go to me. It doesn't go straight to your counselor. There's a few pieces that I have to do first before we can hand it over to them. It's a different system, really. So fill out the rec letter request. This is what it looks like, and the brag sheet, and then give it to me. Either email it to me or drop it off here, and then I will process it and do the pieces I need to do, and then the counselor will be able to upload it. The teacher letter recommendation can go straight to them. Make sure you're talking to them and let them know you put the request in Naviance, and this is what that form looks like, and they get their own brag sheet. Every form, every teacher gets their own form and brag sheet, because you need to give them the information that helps them write the best letter of recommendation for you. So I know it seems like a lot of work, but if you want a really glorious letter of recommendation, you need to arm the teacher and the counselor with the information that can get you, painted in the best light possible. A lot of students ask me, I have a resume, can I just send that? Yes, but is it if you're sending it for a letter of recommendation request, is it really giving me the information I need that's making it more personable to you? Or is it just mirroring what I can get from your transcript? If it's just mirroring what I can get for your transcript, I see what activities you're doing, I see what grades you're getting and what kind of classes you're taking. I need something more personal to you. That's what they're looking at the letters of recommendation for. I need to give more insight in addition to your transcript, in addition to all of the things that you put on your application. And that's the same for your college. Don't send a resume to the college if it's just going to mirror what you've already sent. Only send a resume if the depth of your participation needs yet to be seen. It hasn't really been portrayed well in the rest of your application package. If you are an athlete, we talked briefly about this, the NCAA and the NAIA, this is how you play ball in college and get money for playing ball in college. So we can work with you on this, but you do a lot of this work with your Grand Oaks High School coaches too. So if you are an athlete, you're wanting to play ball in college, that you need to get on your NCAA or your NAIA accounts and work on those things. I can send transcripts, official transcripts to them through Naviance as well. There's a way for you to request it there too. All right, applying for the money. FAFSA opened up today. And you do need your 2019 tax returns. Your student needs to make an FSA ID, and if you have a student already in college, that means you probably already filled out the FAFSA once. It's the same ID for you. Make sure the parent has the same ID. If it's a new student, then you have to create an FSA ID. You need all three of those pieces there. In addition to the FAFSA, we have tons of scholarship information, a full list. Like, it's a little extensive right now. You might feel a little overwhelmed when you see exactly how long it is, but we want to give you every opportunity to get as much money as possible. I also have like 6 scholarship specific search engines listed in the Canvas page, so you can just like click on the link and it'll take you to the website, and you can start searching for scholarships, like filtering it by like specific things to you that is unique to you, and what you might qualify for. College Board also has opportunity scholarships based on your testing scores, so that's another place to go for some scholarships. ROTC scholarships, I know we don't have an ROTC program here, but a lot of students are still very active in other places of the junior military, so you might be able to go through there. Local scholarships, national scholarships, and the universities also have scholarships themselves. So when you're putting in your original application, that admissions advisor may see, oh, you know what, they qualify for this scholarship or this scholarship or this scholarship, and they'll let you know. All scholarships are posted in Naviance. If you need help filling out those things, get your butt in here. We're here to help you, and we can actually mail them in for you if you're working on something that needs to be mailed in. Now, because of the pandemic and things, most everything is virtual, and we're able to send those transcripts virtually for scholarship applications, but in the event that we would have to mail it for you, you can just bring that scholarship application here, and then we'll send a hard copy with your application. Kind of talked about this in the fall. Your scholarships and your applications are in, but you also might want to consider applying for the honors programs within that school. You need to consider applying for housing, and that is kind of first come, first served at most universities. You want to get the in sooner rather than later, and your financial aid with your FAFSA. Okay, towards the end of the program now, denial is going to happen. It's tough, but it's going to happen. It's kind of like failure. You need to learn to digest it, and you need to learn to work from it and find the good pieces of it and move forward. So if you really, I talk about adding like maybe another likely school really helps boost your ego, but you don't have to do that. Just help your student understand that you're not going to get into every school that you apply to, and it may not because you're not qualified. Maybe you're just not the type of student that that school is looking for. They have a very specific kind of student that they have in mind for their school, and maybe you just weren't a good fit for them. So just help them understand that denial is a process and it's tough, but we all at some point in our lives go through it, and it's an important learning experience. You're gonna get a lot of mail. It's juniors and seniors, they're constantly coming to me. I'm getting so much mail, I'm getting so much mail. What is this, what is this, what is this? My biggest pet peeve, and I fell for it myself in grad school, is those honors societies and who's who, blah, 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 blah. They come across as so incredibly legit. I so thought that it was legit. And I say those two examples because I fell for them myself. I did. I paid the money to get the membership. And that should have been the signal right there. This isn't real. I shouldn't have to pay for this. I earned it, right? I qualified because of nationalhonorsociety.org says I qualified for the Honor Society. It's not the real true organization of National Honor Society. It's not the same thing. And so you're going to get a lot of those kinds of mail. Help navigate and kind of sift through, oh, this is spam, but keep the mail from the schools that you're genuinely interested in. So I just want to let you know you're going to get a lot. Junior and senior year, you're going to get a lot of mail. I try and talk to the students about this as much as I can. Social media is so tricky and so tricky. There's like this Netflix documentary out right now. I forget what it's called, but it's on my watch list because I really need to watch it, about how we think is very helpful, but in the long run, we don't even realize all of the things that are happening underneath the surface. But it's important for them to understand that what you put on the internet does not go away. And the internet can become this black hole, and specifically about social media, those admissions counselors that we're talking to, those representatives that we're talking to for these schools, they are younger. They're like my age and younger, maybe like 4 or 5 years out of college, that are doing recruiting for schools and talking about all these things about their school, and they know all the ways to find your student on social media so they can kind of get a sense of what their virtual self looks like. And if they want your student representing their school based on what they see on Facebook or Instagram. So I always tell students, start monitoring what you're putting and what kind of aura you're putting out there on your Facebook profile or on your Instagram profile. What are you really representing? And do you think a future employer or a future school would want that being a representation of their business or their school? So it's tough sometimes to get that through their brains, but I think eventually, if we're all doing it, we'll all be able to really get that through to them. So last slide that I really have, other than my contact information, is we are open, we are here, we're busy, we're ready to help you, we're ready to help your student do whatever they need as far as what's happening after Grand Oaks High School. And I know I spent a lot of time on college, but that's really just because there are so many things to do for college. I still have opportunities for military, and I still have opportunities for getting you set up for a trade school so we can get you the big bucks almost straight out of high school, or we can start looking into careers that we can go into straight out of high school, but get you set up to where you can live the lifestyle that you want based off what kind of job we can get you. Sorry, changing slides. So here's my contact information again. Me and Miss Aguilar, like I said, she's my better half. She is my work wife. She's not my assistant. She's not my secretary. She literally is my other half. We are like two peas in a pod. We really are very similar. She knows a lot. She's got students here at Grand Oaks High School, and they're already doing their planning for post-secondary together. And so she can give you a parent insight where I may not be able to. but we together can answer all of your questions. I guarantee it. If I don't know the answer right now, I know who to call to find it, and I know where to look to find it, and I will find it as fast as I can for you. So just know that we are here, we are ready, we are armed, and we are accessible. And I know that my hours say 7 to 3:30, but really, to be honest with you, just give me a call whenever works for you. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So again, I'm sorry for any kind of technical difficulties you may have seen with the College and Career plug, but I'm happy to get this presentation to you here and now. And give me a shout if you need me. We're here, we're ready, and we're happy to help. So thanks for giving me your time, and I'll hopefully see you soon.